Right, coming to you with better quality. This is the book of Kaliedy. I think that's how you say it. Or the book of Nasarim, which I know that's how you say that way. The birth of Yahusha the Nazarite, that is Jesus the Christ, who became our Adonai and interpreter of Elohim and the Torah, a worthy vessel for the greatest manifestation of the power of the Ruach HaKodesh seen on earth, occurred in this manner. By the way, Ruach is the original term for spirit. It is a feminine word, and HaKodesh is holy or set apart. About the time of Yohanan the Forerunner, that is John the Baptist, commenced teaching the way of the wilderness besides the Jordan River in the year before Herod died, when Augustus Caesar or Kaiser ruled the Roman world. A babe was born. The father was Joseph, son of Heli, a carpenter of Galilee, and the mother, Mary, his wife, who had been a virgin pledged to Yahuwah or Yahweh, and the temple by her father Shimon, or that is Simon, son of Jonah. I think that's Jonah or Joachim, son of Nathan, son of Eleazar. A decree had gone out that all who claim kinship within the house of David should be gathered for enrollment at the city of David, called Bethlehem in Galilee, before Joseph, being rightfully born into the stock of David, took the scroll of his parentage and went to Bethlehem so his kinship could be established. Now Mary, being then heavy with child, longed in her heart to be among her kinsmen, her family, and she prevailed upon Joseph to take her, for Bethlehem was only a day's journey from them. The two with the servant came to Bethlehem at evening. But because so many had gathered, the inns were filled. Then, as Mary's time was close upon her after the journey, a man took pity on her and provided a cave used as a stable. There the travelers found shelter and rest. That night Mary's labors came upon her, and she suffered the pangs of childbirth and cried out in pain. Nearby some shepherds were tending sheep. For the midst of so many strangers, these needed protection, and hearing her cry, they went to help. They provided a shepherd's basket, which was filled with straw, and they placed it in the manger, and the newborn baby was wrapped in the clothes brought for him. After 8 days had elapsed, the child was named Yeshua, meaning one who delivers. For a messenger of Yahweh had appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, "That which lies within Mary, your wife, is filled with the power of the Holy Spirit, and will respond to the hopes of men." Later, men called him Yahusha, and because he fulfilled the hopes and was anointed with the power of the Ruach HaKodesh, he became acknowledged as HaMashiach, which is the Anointed One. How the stable was against a hill. Now the stable was against a hill behind an inn where sages from the east were staying, men of Sestera, wise in the books of the heavens, and of Nimrod, who carried the stake of fire. So Joseph sent for them, requesting they come and foretell the child's future. This was the custom. Such was the custom, guys. One of the sages said, or you could say these were the wise men that were told about, "It is strange indeed, for This child is not born under a usual star, but he was born under one that is a star only in appearance, not in nature, having a power not in the other stars. He is destined for greatness, and he will motivate events touching the lives of all men. When the word of this was passed around, there was much excitement among those belonging to the house of David, and many remembering the prophecies of John. For they had passed his way, wondered in their hearts, "Is this not he for whom we are waiting? The consolation of the Jews, or the Hebrews, and the deliverer of men?" This displeased the people of Bethlehem, who waited for another deliverer. When the sages spoke of the matter at their journey's end in Jerusalem, and word came of the excitement among those of the house of David in Bethlehem, there was great consternation among the priests and the learned men. They tried to discover where the baby was, but the sages answered deviously and said, "His star points towards the east." So they did something. They may have lied to protect him. An elder of the house of David, attending the blessing of the child, or his baraka, blessing of the child on the 8th day, lifted up his voice and declared, "Surely this is he who was been promised to redeem us out of the hands of evil. This is he upon whom the power of the Ruach HaKodesh will descend, bestowing strength, compassion, and wisdom. Surely he will rule in the reign of Elohim." When the sovereign heard about these things, that a baby had been born who many claimed was destined to be the deliverer, he was greatly disturbed, and he summoned the council. With the council were learned scribes, elders, who disputed among themselves concerning the babe. Some said that while Yahuwah's anointed would be born in Bethlehem, the deliverer would not, for the birth of Yahweh's anointed in the place had been foretold by the prophets. Others said it might not be more than an enlightener who was expected to be born at that time. However, when many agreed that Yahweh's anointed and the deliverer might be the same person, the king sent 3 men to go and find the child. The argument before the council had been long, and Joseph had been forewarned. So when the men sent by Herod came to Bethlehem, Joseph had already left with his family. They went to the place where the kinsmen of Mary lived. The men who came did not search long for Jesus, for after the council had been dismissed, Herod slew the son that sat with him on the throne, as he had slain others of his blood. Later, Herod died himself. But after these happenings, the Romans did not bestow the title of king on any Jew, and it was unlawful for any man to claim the title. In this manner the prophecy was fulfilled, which said, "A virgin shall give birth to a son, naming him Elohim with us. He will be the bearer of knowledge, discriminating between good and evil. But before this is given to the people, the land will lose its kings." I see. When time had passed, Joseph and Mary came to Jerusalem and stayed at the house of a relative, a man strongly set against wrongdoing and well learned in the Torah. The 40 days having been accomplished for the purification of Mary, she came to the temple, and Joseph offered the prescribed sacrifice and dedicated the child. Hearing from Joseph and Mary the things which the sages had foretold about the child, Yahusha, the devout man took the babe into his arms and praised Yahweh in this manner. Because the things foretold have come about, your servant is prepared to depart in peace. For my eyes have been gladdened by the deliverer of my people, a beacon light for others and the glorifier of your name. He will teach all men the ways of Yahweh and how to walk in his paths. So swords shall be made into plowshares and spears into billhooks, and peace will reign over men. Joseph and Mary could not understand the meaning of this, and they asked what he meant, whereupon the man replied, I hold a sapling which will grow into a sturdy tree, under the shade of which many nations will find peace. Yet he will also test the strength of our people, tearing them apart in dispute. He comes as a separator, dividing the sheep from the goats, showing each his rightful place. He will place a sword in the hands of men. He will place a sword in the hands of the weak and strengthen them. And the Belial will be smitten. After complying with the requirements of the Torah of the priests, Joseph and Mary returned with the infant to their home in Galilee, a small place in a hollow at the foot of a hillside. There the child grew up, developing a strong body and a keen mind, and he was strangely talented. He was wise beyond his years and deft with his hands, and when old enough, he began learning the craft of plow making. His parents, following the custom, went each year to Jerusalem for the festival of deliverance. And when Jesus was 12, they went as usual, but this time taking him with them. Having remained the 7 days of the festival, Joseph and Mary set off to return home. But the boy stayed in Jerusalem, for a family member of theirs was also returning, and they thought Jesus was in his company. Having gone a day's journey and finding Jesus not with his family member, they became perturbed. And at first light in the morning, they returned to Jerusalem. It was some time before they found Jesus in a small outside room of the temple, sitting before an instructor of the Torah of the priests. Parents were astounded at finding him, or his parents were astounded at finding him accepted among the learned men. And the teacher expressed amazement at the child's love of learning. But Mary scolded the boy for his inconsideration, saying, We have suffered much during this search for you. Jesus replied, Why search for me elsewhere, knowing I must concern myself with the work of my Father? This saying disturbed the instructor. Neither could his parents understand the meaning of the reply, but they took the boy away with them. Henceforth, he always obeyed his parents. But Mary kept these things in her heart, in the storehouse of her heart. As Jesus grew up, his intelligence increased, and he was well liked by all. And he was, although a solitary child, much given to wandering.